Here we go. It is the Lowdown with Lorenzo Alexander. Normally at 2 o'clock, this is what we do. John Murphy with Bills linebacker Lorenzo Alexander. Good afternoon. Thanks for coming by here.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. You know I love coming in and hanging out with you, Murph.
You sure?
Yeah. You
have a chance to get out of here early on Fridays.
No, I'm not going to be like Steve or Brownie. I'm a next man up. I'm going to show up and do my obligation.
Thank you. Yeah, Steve is gone. He's going to Chicago. Brownie was scheduled to be here. We don't know where he is, but he'll be here eventually. Against the Dolphins, 73 defensive snaps for the Bills.
Yeah.
You were in on 70 of them.
Right.
How do you feel today?
I feel great. I actually felt a lot better than what I thought I was going to feel. I think mainly because it was coming off of a bye week. And secondly, I didn't have to play any special teams. I think we punted twice, which really saved me. Those are the times where I really get exhausted is when I have to, obviously cover punts or cover kickoff or hold somebody up and then go play defense. But since we did, our offense did a really good job as far as moving the ball and having to kick field goals, we never had to punt in the game, so I felt pretty good.
And that's because you're covering the field when you're covering punts or kickoff?
Yeah, I mean, you're fighting another man for, 40, 50 yards. Yeah. I mean, that's the most exhausting play, probably is punt and return. Kickoff isn't bad because you normally don't touch a guy until maybe at the last second before you maybe try to go get off the block and make a tackle. But punt, return, and punt is 40 yards of fighting a guy.
And so you play 70 defensive snaps. I would imagine that the absence of Milano had a lot to do with that?
Yeah, so we did it, manned his position by committee. First, second down, I took majority of the reps. And then on third down, moved down to my usual position as far as rushing the passer. And Maurice Alexander came in and played and filled his role. And so, when you have a talented guy like Matt, it takes a couple of guys to kind of fill his role, and because he has a lot of skill sets that really help us.
We were talking with Greg Cosell about this an hour ago. Milano and, to a certain extent, Tremaine Edmonds, to me, kind of embody kind of a new development, new trend in the league where linebackers are not really thumpers anymore. A lot of guys playing linebacker now need to run like Milano and Tremaine Edmonds do.
Yeah, you definitely got to be able to run, but I wouldn't say they're not thumpers. I think they'll get a little upset, if that's kind of soft in a nice way.
Soft. No, sir.
But I think you have to have the ability, because teams have started taking advantage of that, as well as, play the Patriots and some other teams that will throw a fullback in there now, because you are dealing with, smaller linebackers than we're historically used to, and will try to run the ball down your throat. And I think Matt has really grown in that aspect because he's put on some weight. I think a lot of that was lifted and hanging out with Julian Stafford, who's a weight room guy, and he's put on some bulk. And not only can he run, but he'll come down and lay the wood on you as well, which we've seen him do several times throughout the season. And Tremaine, just being a big man, he's just a freak of nature out there, 6'5". He's probably 255, 260, and can run like a deer and come down and drop the hammer on you as well.
We're talking with Lorenzo Alexander, Bills linebacker. If you have comments, questions, give us a call, 803-0550, toll-free, 1-888-550-2550. Lorenzo will be with us. We'll get to the lowdown in a second. About the game, and one more question I have for you about the Miami game. Micah Hyde, you needed that you needed a big play. You needed to recover the kickoff on the onside kick.
Yes, we did.
It got bigger than that play, thanks in large part to a block you threw for Micah Hyde.
Yeah, me, Tremaine, and Jordan Poyer, and also Julian Stafford did a great job. Obviously, we had 3 knockout blocks on that, which was really cool. I'm glad he scored a touchdown, but it is just from a technical standpoint, it's a no-ma situation where you should go down and then your offense can just kill the clock, but we had to go back out on defense. I get it. I would have scored the touchdown, too. I would have scored the touchdown. There's not too many chances you get to score a touchdown in the NFL wide open like that. He thought about it. He said,
you can see him looking.
I'm going to score. I'm going to score. You just don't get those type of opportunities. So I get it. Obviously it put us up by 2 scores after he had that. But, it's just a great job of executing, because you don't get to work this play full go until you actually have to do it. But I've been campaigning for a dinner or something for Micah.
I saw that on Twitter.
For the 4 guys or 3 guys that gave him great box.
What do you hear about that dinner? Anything yet?
He said he would do it. Now, whenever that happens, that's another thing.
Yeah. It's hard to recover onside kicks, and people have talked about maybe there needs to be, you're a special teamer.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to tweak the rules a little bit, make it a little bit easier to recover an onside kick.
There's definitely ways. If I would have missed a block, or if, let's say, Jordan doesn't get to his guy, or even Julian, he gets hit here. So it's a possibility of him not catching this ball. It's not 100%. Of course, the percentages have probably dropped lower than what was already a low percentage of getting that ball anyway, just because you can't get a running head start. But it's still some teams out there that get creative with some kickers that can put some balls, hit a guy in the front line, and it bounces back. And they were able to get the ball.
The game against Miami, just an overview here. The Dolphins were gamers. They came ready to go, and I guess we anticipated that last Friday, huh?
Yeah, it was no doubt in my mind or anybody in our locker room's mind that they was going to come out. As I pointed out last week, they have been in every single game at halftime. So this team is not just a run-of-the-mill, you just going to run them over. It's a team that hasn't learned how to finish games yet, and I think that's why we were able to kind of regain our composure and finish off the game at the end the way we did. But they're an NFL team. They have great players. They're going to come in here with their prideful, and they want to play. And obviously some of the stuff they got on us was because we weren't fitting stuff right. But at the end of the day, we came away with the win.
Lorenzo Alexander, we're going to get to the lowdown in a minute. Want to get a couple of your thoughts on this week's opponents, the Philadelphia Eagles. As you said right before we went on the air, probably better than their 3-4 record, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think they could easily be 5-2. Just watching a couple of the games, came down to missed opportunities, execution, maybe a drop ball that would have won the game for them. When I believe they were playing Atlanta, they had a couple of early turnovers last week that really got them starting from behind off the jump. And so if I'm sitting in that locker room, I'm like, okay, it's all about what we've done to ourselves. No other team has stopped us besides the mistakes that we've made. And so if we clean those things up, we can be right where we want to be as far as maybe fighting for a playoff spot or maybe even the division in the NFC East. So obviously we're going to get their best. They have some great athletes offensively that we really have to worry about. Start with Carson Wentz, and we got to have a great game plan. Stopping that run early. We have to start fast. We can't start off like we did last week.
Their tight ends are good, right? Goddard and Ertz, and you'll probably see a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, they run a lot of 12 personnel. And that's really been like a new trend where you have like I guess your traditional blocking style fullback that's athletic, and I would say that's probably more Goddard. And then you have like your Ertz that's more of a receiver type. And so they play a lot of 12 to where they're able to maybe run the ball if they want to, but then also split you out and really have to treat Ertz as a wide receiver like we've had to do with maybe 2 or 3 other tight ends this year. And so you have to play a lot of nickel and a lot of Buffalo against those style teams because they're looking to get the mismatch. That's why they put 12. Maybe they play base, and now you stuck out there in base because you have maybe a linebacker that's not as good as a cover guy. And so we're starting to see that. And they have a lot of great other weapons. Aguilar, Alshon Jeffries on the outside, guys that can really go up and go get the ball and also stretch the field.
When you say you got to play nickel and Buffalo, can you tell us what Buffalo is?
Buffalo is just a variation of nickel. It's just a bigger safety instead of your traditional nickel playing the nickel spot.
Gotcha. We are joined by Chris Brown, Bills Insider, BuffaloBills.com, who is busy writing for the website, writing the injury update. Yeah, the injury update.
Earlier than expected,
okay.
So kind of ran into some double duty there, you know.
What'd
just
you
like
find
Lorenzo does on Sunday. I wear a few hats around here.
You're not playing 70 snaps today like Lorenzo did.
No, I'm not playing 70 snaps.
5 players questionable. Anything on the injury report jump out at you, or what do you think?
No, not really. I was hoping that, you know, some of those injured guys might get up to full participation status by Friday, which I think would put them on the more favorable side of questionable, but we didn't really see that today. So I really think all these guys are truly 50-50, and Coach kind of indicated as much. So, you know, he said Milano specifically is a game-time decision, and I know these guys would certainly love to have him in the coverage aspect against those 2 tight ends he was just talking about, because we know how Matt can carry a tight end down the field. And there's not a whole lot of linebackers that can cover wheel routes and stuff from really fast running backs. Like I still remember the pass breakup he made a few weeks ago down that sideline, down the Bills sideline, on a really nice thrown ball. I can't even remember the opponent now. I want to say it was New England. Oh, it was against James White. Yeah. He carried James White down the field on that route. And, I mean, there's not – what is it? It's maybe 10 linebackers that can do that in the league that can get 20 yards downfield.
And I'm one of them.
Then run step for step, you know? So, but I will say this. The one thing for me that I wanted to ask Lorenzo, knowing he was going to be in here today, as he is every Friday, is when you see on paper that you've got an offense that you're facing that has 8 lost fumbles in 6 games or 7 games, isn't that like a red flag for you? Because, I mean, that's tied for 4th most in the league right now. Like, let's look to punch some out because these guys are susceptible.
Well, yeah, that's our standard every week. I mean, we focus a lot on that. Sean, Leslie, all of our coaches, we showing turnovers, you know, before every meeting. We're focusing on it in practice, challenging guys, keeping score of guys that are punching balls out, catching interceptions. And so turnovers are always at the forefront of our mind and want to get them out. And for me, when I see that, it just adds to the idea of this team is better than what they are, because if you secure a lot of those balls, now you sustaining drive, putting points on the board, and probably winning some of those games that they lost. And so for us, we know the ball is going to be a huge key in this game.
What about the Sanders-Howard combination and how they use those two guys to play off one another?
Right. You know, obviously, Howard, when he's in the game, you're thinking a little bit more run. Big power back that we faced last year in Chicago can get things going. And then Sanders is more of that scat back, obviously, with Sproles being down. His reps have went way up, but more of that, working the two-man game on the backside versus that will linebacker. How can we isolate him and get him in space? And create some favorable matchups, screen game. So those are the things that kind of have to go in your mind when you're playing linebacker. Okay, which running back is in the game? Where is he aligned? And then you have to, kind of go through some of your tendencies that's going to allow you to play fast and put yourself in position to make plays, whether it's pass or run.
I got one more guy on offense and the trigger man to ask you about, Carson Wentz, who has not played great this year, but, man, he's got all the tools you would want for an NFL quarterback.
Right, and in a lot of ways, he's still young and developing. Yeah. I mean, because he's been hurt. He's been in and out of the lineup. I think this is his fourth season. Yep. And he hasn't had, like 3 of those to be completely healthy. And so when you have some of that, some of the developmental things that you would like to see from him is probably a little bit behind from a consistency standpoint. But this dude can throw the rock all the way around, has a good, strong arm to actually lead the league or top 5 in the league as far as explosive plays. You saw a couple of times. It might have been in the Atlanta game as well. Aguilar taking the top off the defense and him making a downfield pass that's magnificent. Him and Zach Ertz have a very great chemistry going on as well. And then he's done a very great job, I think, of being able to diagnose what the defense is in, using his play clock, taking it all the way down at times, and putting his offense in the most advantageous play. So he's done a lot of great things. And then on top of that, he's hard to tackle. I mean, we thought we had our hands full with Fitz last week. This dude is breaking tackles and getting out and really be able to extend some plays and also maybe save some yardage by being able to throw the ball away because he is so big and strong when guys have him, D-linemen have him wrapped up, taking him down to the ground.
I think he's also been a little bit of a victim of drops. I mean, Philly is tied for the league lead in drops this year with 11, and I looked up their catch rate the other day, and they are 30th in the league in catch rate. They're only catching just under 62% of their passes. Most of the better teams are up around 75, 76%, 78% even. And so they're way low, way down, especially when you consider the fact that they've got guys that have been playing in the league a little while here. You got guys like Alshon Jeffrey and Aguilar. I mean, these guys have been in the league for a few years, and I haven't watched enough games to know if is Wentz hitting the target enough, or are these guys just having concentration drops? But the fact of the matter is they're not completing with enough consistency to keep that offense on the field, it seems. Did you notice anything like that?
Yeah, well, it was a couple of times where it was just balls, just guys just not making the play for him. And, obviously we don't want to leave guys running wide open because this dude was making some nice throws off some blitzes. Some teams were playing some cover 2, and he was hitting that honey hole shot, and guys just weren't executing, for whatever reason it may be. But we don't want them to get that rolling against us. And so, continue to try to play physical against them, knock them off that time and stuff, and try to get after them a little bit.
Their best receiver is not playing, right? Deshaun Jackson, you've faced him before. He's a difference maker.
I faced him for a whole lot of years, when I was in Washington. And he's just a game changer. Even though he's older in his years, that speed has never left his body. It's just deceptive, and he's killed a lot of people's hopes and dreams.
He's a Cal guy,
in the slot. Yeah, he is a Cal guy. I haven't gotten there quite yet. I was building him up first, and then, by the way, we all know where he went to school at. So, great athlete. I don't know if he's going to play or not. I think he has like a domino injury. And, when you're a speed guy like that, any little twinge or things like that is hard to overcome.
What about schematically? I think a lot of people felt Miami kind of came in here with a good scheme last week, kind of kept your base on the field, maybe even longer than you guys would have preferred. I think you guys probably had an idea they were going to do that once they activated the fullback during the week.
That made a big difference for us,
but when you see a team that does that and then they have a measure of success, how do you guys prepare, knowing the copycat league that it is, for future offenses coming in here?
Well, I don't know if they have a fullback on their team at all, so that's going to make a big difference, right? So I don't know if they have the personnel to execute that style of stuff. Sometimes you can maybe try to put a tight end back there, but if they haven't done it enough, it's not going to look the same.
Yeah, and their tight ends are like 6'5", 6'6". They don't have a 6'2", 6'3"
Exactly. They don't have the experience. So I don't know if we're going to see that necessarily from the Eagles, but, reverting back to Miami, you're right. They hadn't activated it, the fullback. He wasn't up, so we didn't have a lot of base reps during the week, especially two-back stuff. And so that was a little helter-skelter for us. But at the end of the day, it's all about fitting up runs, and we didn't execute that in that standpoint. So it's not like they were running over guys or running through guys.
Yeah.
We just weren't fitting things up because they put a fullback back there. You have a couple of new guys inserted that haven't had the reps, and so you miss a couple of runs, and then they get it going, and that confidence starts rolling. And so, but luckily we were able to kind of reset, refocus, and regroup, and kind of win that back over.
So just to be clear, so everybody's got this, it's something that was easily correctable. It's corrected to the point where you guys don't really need to be concerned about future opponents getting you on that. You fixed it. It should be good going forward if you ever see it again.
Correct. And it's all about making adjustments.
Yeah.
And I think what we have to understand, we play 70 snaps. Every snap isn't going to be perfect.
Right.
And all you need is one guy to be out of a gap, and that can do an explosion play. That's why communication, a guy may be stepping up and covering another guy up when he is out of place, and then going to the sideline and be able to communicate it player to player, coach to coach, which I think we do a great job of that as far as making adjustments and corrections on the sideline.
The Lowdown with Lorenzo Alexander. The Lowdown is brought to you by Hutch's Redefining City Dining. This is where we get to the nuts and bolts of this game on Sunday. The Lowdown, Lorenzos Keys to a Buffalo victory. Let's get going on this, Lorenzo. Number one key. You want me to read it? Discipline, gap, integrity. That sounds too complicated. What does that mean?
Well, we just finished talking about it.
Yeah, we were just talking about it.
Yeah, so, if they just run a straight, kick, which is doubles across the board, it's very simple because everybody has a gap. You just stay in your gap, come downhill, take the double teams off of the defensive lineman, and, it's great. It gets hard when, like we saw last week, you start have pullers, you have these jet motions, so you have to have great discipline with your eyes, where you're fitting, where you're bumping to, and so I know they have a lot of jet in their game, and they will utilize that as well. And so when guys are bumping and then a tight end, let's say we call it hawk, but goes behind the line on the snap of the ball, and you have maybe a pulling guard, you have to be able to diagnose and see all that as a linebacker and as a nickel, because sometimes you can be in the run fit as well. And I think coming off that bye week, our game eyes weren't quite sharp when we started, and I think having a great week of practice, that should be fitted up and making sure we're doing that. And then also on discipline, penalties. We had way too many penalties. I think we had 2 unnecessary roughnesses on the quarterback. We had a couple of big holding calls that brought some first downs back. And if we want to be able to continually win in this league, we can't continue to hurt ourselves. We have to play smarter. When the ball is outside and we don't need, let guys go, pull off the quarterback, err on the side of caution, because we know the refs are taught to err on the side of caution for quarterback safety. So even if we want to kill them, just stop. We're good.
Let's get ridiculous, though, last week.
It is ridiculous.
Shaq belly bumps him, and he gets a 15-yard penalty for that. Come on.
I know, but, hey, they calling it, so let's pull off, because at the end of the day, who's going to win that? Nobody's going to win that.
You mentioned jet motion. It's funny. We had Isaiah McKenzie on the show yesterday, who is Mr. Jet Motion for this team. And we'd mentioned to him, it's a trend in the league now, right? Maybe even just this year. Do you see it more than you used
to? We remember back maybe 2 years ago when Sean's first year here, when we played the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
They ran a ton of that.
Yeah, you're right.
The Chargers ran a ton of that. So it's become more prevalent, I think, across the league, but it's been in the league now, I would say at least
I want to say Percy Harvin ran it in Seattle when he was there.
Maybe 4 years. It was more ghost motion. I don't know. That's a long time ago, so you might have saw like touches of it, but now it's everybody does it. And it's just really, it's window dressing. It's to get guys' eyes in the wrong place, because sometimes if you're in a certain coverage, sometimes that is your guy. If you're in man, it's probably not your guy, because we're staying, kind of disconnected to who your original guy is. So it can get hard, and your natural inclination, because especially if they run the sweep one time, then the next time, I'm gonna make a play.
Yeah.
And you get out of your gap just a little bit, and then that back, Howard is able to hit a seam and get a big explosion run on you.
The Lowdown continues. Number 2 Lowdown, number 2 key for Lorenzo: effectively run the ball on offense.
Yeah. As we heard Coach Sean McDermott, a lot of the defensive line were kind of mad at this statement, but he said they have the best defensive front,
Oh, yeah, he did say that. Yeah, I can see why you might take offense.
Right. But obviously, rightfully so. I mean, you think about Fletcher Cox and some of those guys that are over there, very dominant, very productive, very they just disrupt a lot of things, disruptive. And so in order to slow them down, if you want to be able to pass the ball at all, you have to be able to run the ball effectively and creating that run game, getting a couple of yards, 3-4 yards a pop, as we know Frank and Singletary can do. And then that opens up everything else once you kind of slow them down, because now, we maybe got to play the run. Now you can add some play action, some boot, some other things to allow us to maybe get the ball down the field and create some explosion plays of our own.
They're a top 10 run defense, but they're missing people. I mean, Ridgeway just goes on IR this week. They're already without Malik Jackson, who's on IR. And there was another guy, Tim Jernigan. Doesn't look like he's going to play either. They signed 2 guys off practice squads this week from 2 different teams. One of them may have to start next to Fletcher Cox on Sunday. I mean, you're asking a lot of that kid. I mean, no regular season NFL experience for either of the 2 DTs they signed. So target that guy and go.
Hey, Chris, Lorenzo and you both mentioned Fletcher Cox. I don't think you were here yet. The Bills played in Philadelphia 2015. You were here in 2015.
Fletcher
Cox.
Yeah, he took the game over.
He took the game over.
He is capable of game wrecking, right?
Man, yes, he is. I mean, I remember just studying him doing a Super Bowl run, and the things that he can do is just amazing. He's a grown man. I mean, he's like right there. Him and Aaron Donald, as far as D tackles go, it's obviously 1A, 1B as far as when those guys are rolling, they're rolling.
But he's a lot bigger man than Aaron is.
Sure.
Like Aaron's speed, athleticism, and power.
Cox is long.
Cox is he just takes up space, but he can move. He's just got the agility of, a much smaller man.
You remember Richie Incognito in the locker room after that day? Richie was like, he got me. That's all he could say. He got me. He owned me today. It was amazing.
He owned everybody that day. He wrecked the game.
Last of the lowdown. I don't know what this means. The ball?
The ball. The football.
I know what the ball is.
Do you know what it is?
Yeah. What does this mean? How is this a key?
How is it? You want to possess the football. You want to take away the football, and that's what it comes down to. Early in the week, Sean mentioned a stat that anytime we've won the turnover ratio, I believe we're like 16-2. You can fact check me. I may be a game or so off, but on the opposite side, they are, I want to say, like 15-1 when they win the turnover ratio. And so that is going to be huge for us. As far as taking the ball away, we saw last week what that meant to their offense when Dallas was able to create 2 early turnovers in the game, kind of just stopping their confidence, stopping that rhythm, and be able to get up on them early and give Josh and our offense more opportunities to score in great field position.
Before we let you go, we want to review. You were with a group here last Saturday for the Sink Cancer with Cornhole event. How did that go Saturday?
It went great. Had a great turnout. People that were came down to the game early, over in the RV lot, kind of tweeting out. The sisters went over and they actually came over too. So it kind of turned into a big party. Cornhole had great music, prizes, raised a good ton of money for cancer research locally here in Buffalo, and so hopefully we'll be able to continue to do it and grow the event.
Did you add that to the 70 snaps you took on Sunday as well? Is that part of the weekend of work?
Well, I only stayed for about an hour. I wanted to get off my feet.
He said he wanted to stay off his feet.
Yeah.
He was here
you
last
giving
week.
me a hard time about that. And I knew it was coming. I knew the 70 snaps somewhere in there was coming. So
it came.
So I was over there, had a great time, great community event. Obviously, Mary and Patty, the sisters that helped me put the event on, did an excellent job, and so it was good. It was good.
Thanks for this. Good luck on Sunday.
Appreciate it.
Lorenzo Alexander with a lowdown. It is brought to you by Hutch's Redefining City Dining. Chris Brown and I, when we return, One Bills Live from the Seneca studio on Buffalo Bills Radio.